Hey, this is Doug Paget and Nanette Sawyer. Nanette is in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm in Minneapolis, where the Church Planters Academy will be held May 3rd through the 5th, 2012. Nanette is going to be one of the instructors, and she is part of a church that's currently called Wicker Park Grace, but soon will be called Grace Commons. So, Nanette, thanks for being part of the Church Planters Academy, and tell us how Wicker Park Grace got started.
Hey everybody, great to be here. So I'm ordained Presbyterian. I'm part of the Presbyterian Church USA, and the Presbytery of Chicago, which is like the regional body of churches there, wanted to try something different. They called it Church Without Walls. They called me when I completed seminary and sent me out into the neighborhood to try for a couple of years. It was a 2-year thing to try to be with the people in the neighborhood who weren't really coming to churches. So we started out in coffee shops, we had spirituality discussions, we had poetry slams.
Yeah.
I was getting to know the people in the neighborhood. And after that period, that initial test period, we decided to try to start a church, but something new and creative and experimental. So we became a new church development, as we call it, and started out on a 7-year process of gathering a community and doing experimental ministry, different kinds of worship. And so we're now at the end of that 7-year period and about to transition into our next step. And that's a whole new thing.
And that's part of where the name change is going to come from. It's a bit of a re-identity and restart.
Yeah, and we're leaving the neighborhood. Our first name, Wicker Park Grace, was for a neighborhood, Wicker Park. We're moving one neighborhood over to Humboldt Park.
And where you live in Chicago, that's a big deal. To move 3 blocks over another neighborhood.
It is.
Means a whole identity change.
Identity issue, yes.
Yeah, right.
Our new name, Grace Commons, is more open. We want to think about being the commons, the area where we gather together to experience grace. The commons is something that's held in common, shared by the people.
Yeah.
So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, it's a good name. Now, when you were starting, it wasn't your idea to be in Chicago. There was a group of people that wanted to see something happen in Chicago and brought you in to help make that go. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I was in Chicago in seminary. I had just finished seminary a few months before. So I was interested in staying in Chicago, but not at all bound to it.
Yeah.
And they wanted to start something in Chicago. And that intrigued me. It was reaching out to a population that I resonated with very much, people who were alienated from the church. And I had training in comparative world religions too, which gave me a kind of vocabulary where I could talk with people who were familiar with lots of different religions, or maybe they were kind of religion shopping. So that was a good fit. So I agreed to come and try this.
Yeah, and you were having to navigate at that time the relationship between the presbytery and the people who were starting, your own passions, and the people you were meeting. And so in your situation, you had all 3 stakeholders that you had to think about.
Right, absolutely. In some ways, I think of myself as a two-way translator, sort of translating the church to the people in the neighborhood, translating the neighborhood to the people in the church, saying, okay, these aren't meshing too well in many cases, so we want to try a different kind of way to engage these communities together.
Well, and I just think the world of Wicker Park Grace. And behind you, behind what to me is your left shoulder, there's an image, and you said that was one of the artifacts created by the Wicker Park community.
Yeah, we do a lot of art in our worship. This we painted together. We started it in an arts and spirituality workshop, and we had an icon painter lay down the very traditional form, and then we painted on it for a year and a half or so, sent it back to him. He added all the detail and the iconographic symbolism, and so now it's a major part in our worship space.
Oh, yeah. Well, and in some ways, I mean, knowing your story and what you've shared with us here, that kind of represents how you've created this community, that you formed something and then other people added something to it, and you did that inside of a context of what it means to be Presbyterian, like the icon was sort of shaped inside of what it meant to be an icon as opposed to another kind of painting. And it's kind of perfect, isn't it?
Yeah, it is kind of perfect.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's Nanette Sawyer, and she's really worth getting to know wherever you can. And how would people find out about Grace Commons or Wicker Park Grace, whichever name they happen to search for?
Right now we have a website, wickerparkgrace.net, but within 2 weeks we're going to have a new website, gracecommons.net.
Gracecommons.net. Great. So Wicker Park Grace or gracecommons.net, and connect with Nanette Sawyer, or come to the Church Planters Academy May 3rd through the 5th, 2012. in Minneapolis. And of course, that's at churchplantersacademy.com. Thanks, Nanette. We'll see you in Minneapolis.
See you there.